Hi YouTube, welcome back. It's time for another garden tour. Let's go see what's going on. Well, this would be garden tour week 6. The sun is very bright this morning, so I apologize if things look a little washed out, but I don't want to wait another day, so I want you to see what's going on. Let's go. Well, previously I've started from my front door, but there's so much more going on over here, so let's start over here. These are my runner beans. They're actually starting to climb the tree a little bit. Flowers everywhere. And even some beans forming. So there's an old saying about corn, knee-high by the 4th of July. Now, it doesn't really need to be knee-high by the 4th of July, but I think we passed that. Even the later ones that I planted are up to my knees. And today is July 4th. Happy Independence Day. So I did finally cut my oregano, and I dried it in the dehydrator, and I got about 3 16-ounce mason jars full of dried oregano. We had a really bad storm the other day, so all the points where there's connectors, the little zip ties, is all shifted. But it'll still work for the season. These are the Cherokee Tan pumpkins. These are the last ones that I planted, and they are the biggest ones. Growing very nicely. This is my beefsteak tomato for the Tomato Grow Off Challenge. Lots of big flowers, and there's some fruit forming down the bottom. Let's bring you in closer for that. My little beefsteak tomatoes. Right next to it, the brandywines are even bigger. Unfortunately, the rest of the brandywine isn't doing as well as everything else, because that's the one I broke the growing tip off of. You know, the one for the Tomato Grow Off Challenge. This plant was for the best overall production, I was hoping. I don't think I'm going to get that, but I'm going to get some tasty tomatoes. I am letting sucker grow. Even though the growing tip did heal, it's not really catching up. So I'm going to let one sucker go and grow from there. I have nice little Jimmy Nardello peppers. Well, this is not the best angle from the sun, but I wanted to show you. I took all the broccoli plants out, so the tomatoes are getting a lot more light now. I did get a head off of each broccoli except 3 that had been stunted, and they were just too small, and they were never going to head because it was just getting too warm for them anyway. So I just pulled them all out. And the tomatoes are taken off because of it. Unfortunately, my cauliflower is not doing as well. It's getting really eaten up badly by cabbage worms. I don't think these 2 are going to make it. They hadn't even started forming the head yet, and they're pretty eaten up. As for the peas, right there, I had one plant that had some kind of mosaic virus on it. I pulled it out. Didn't seem to affect the rest of them. The rest of them were fine, but now it's getting hot and they are dying out. They were delicious. Still not enough plants, though. Planted a lot more than last year, and they still never made it in the house. The cucumbers are finally starting to take off, now that the slugs are done eating my seedlings. This is ready to come out. I'm not sure what I'm going to plant there. There's some bush beans that are coming up nicely. These I planted later and they just didn't have enough time to really get big. Now this is the other cauliflower. And it actually started to form heads, but it's getting eaten up just as bad. The cherry tomatoes are growing like weeds. They're huge. They're massive. I have to come out and tie them up and cut suckers off all the time. I did plant some bush beans in here, but they have not come up yet. Well, I should say this squash is getting bigger. Oh, and it's starting to put out little blossoms. They're not open yet, but oh, they're coming. I even see little female fruits in there. Can you see that? All right. The other one kind of stalled. Still need to fertilize it. Cinnamon basil is getting bushy. I need to harvest some of that. But do you see these tomatoes? And all the little green fruits I have? There's going to be so many when they're ready. Pear tomatoes look really cool. And then my one Brandywine over here by the cherries has some funky tomatoes. And some really big ones down there. Side note though, one of my peppers died. Something dug into the dirt next to it. They didn't touch the pepper, at least it didn't look like it did, but it curled up and died. There's no bringing that back now. In the shade a little bit here. It's starting to get warm out. As for the other bed, we got some stuff going on. I mentioned in my last tour that the flea beetles were eating up my eggplant. So I put diatomaceous earth on them, and I don't see the flea beetles anymore. I don't see any new damage. So hopefully they will recover. Let's take a close look at them. This one got eaten up the most. And some of the leaves are really dead, but we still have new growth in the middle. This one seemed to have gotten stunted. These are both the Rosa Biancas. And then on the other side are the Ping Tombs. And that one, get my head out of the way. That one is doing really well. That one didn't get eaten up as much as the others, so I think that one's going to recover just fine. And that one looks okay. I definitely have more beets that I need to harvest, and radishes. And I missed a couple that went to seed. Look how pretty. But I really need to get the radishes out of the way, because I have 3 zucchinis going. And these are vining type, or at least that's how they grew last year. So they'll start vining out, and I'll just spread them out this way. As for the sunflowers that had the beans growing up them, they're Blah Hill beans, which get big. These are the fastest growing beans I think I've ever seen. They were planted later after everything else, and they're taller than everything except the runner beans, which I planted early. Sunflowers are up to here. I got a bean up here. I built this makeshift trellis for the beans. It's just 2 furring strips and some twine. $1.41 at Lowe's. But the beans were actually choking the sunflowers. Got one twisted in an S shape. Come look. See, it goes around like a corkscrew because of how the beans are pulling on it. So now the beans have plenty of room to grow. They've got 8 feet. And if the sunflowers need any help later on, I can put them on there too. So they'll be fine. This experiment may have worked with either less beans or a different kind of bean. These beans are just so aggressive. I want to try this again next year, but with like a regular Kentucky Wonder type bean and just one on each sunflower. I really didn't expect them all to germinate. I wanted like one or two to go up each sunflower. Last video, I actually got a small harvest of potatoes, but I only did half my buckets. So we still have a couple here and one over there. I replanted a potato in each of the buckets that I harvested because apparently they're both short season varieties, really fast growing and quicker than I expected. So I might get another harvest before frost comes. Lemon balm is really filling out. It's only like 4 plants. It's quite large. Sadly, the Asiatic lily is done blooming, but now the speedwell is starting to bloom. The jalapenos are putting on flowers. I don't see any peppers yet, but it won't be long. Something, probably the raccoon, dug up around the ground cherries and pulled a bunch of the cardboard that was underneath the compost out, but didn't touch the plants. Plants are still fine. Putting on flowers, branching out, getting big. Looking delicious. I have tons of little tomatillos. There's some bigger ones, and then some little ones are starting to form. And then a whole lot more on the purple variety. Well, that's about it for the garden tour today. We didn't quite look at everything, but you know, some things just don't look any different. It's like there's still onions in the ground. There's still carrots in the ground. There's still beets in the ground. So some things are just not exciting. Tried to stick with the stuff that was more exciting. At least to another gardener. You know, not to my kids or anything. They just want to eat the food. They don't want to grow the food. But I think I will have the kids do their own little garden tour with what they're growing. I think that'd be cute. Well, anyway, I hope you enjoyed this garden tour today. Thanks for watching. And remember, life's an adventure. Thanks for joining me in mine. God bless.